All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating moral paradox from a classic tale. We are basically taught from day one that honesty is the best policy, right? But what if, and hear me out, what if complete honesty actually ends up hurting the people you care about the most? We're going to dive into this old story about three childhood friends that honestly completely flips our traditional understanding of deceit right on its head. So, to figure out if it's ever actually okay to lie to your closest friends, we're going to follow Gauri. She's the wife of our incredibly successful main character, Gopal. And she basically acts as the voice of our own conscience throughout this whole thing. Through her perspective, we're going to unpack this ethical dilemma that really challenges everything we think we know about absolute truth. It forces us to take a step back and ask, is a lie still a bad thing if it's told entirely for someone else's benefit? Section 1. Tale of Three Friends. To really get a handle on the ethics here, we've got to understand the baseline relationship between these three guys, Gopal, Sugandh, and Arvind. Picture this. Back in their childhood in Rampur village, these three were totally inseparable. They spent their days goofing off, scheming to steal mangoes from the neighbor's garden, classic kid stuff. But as they grew up, their paths took completely different turns. During their teenage years, Gopal's father tragically passes away. He leaves Gopal with just a tiny sum of money and basically tells him, go to the city and make something of yourself. So Gopal heads out, hustles hard, builds massive wealth from absolute scratch, and eventually becomes a multimillionaire. But in the process, he totally loses touch with Sugandh and Arvind, who both stayed behind in the village. Flash forward, years later, Gopal finally returns to his hometown with his wife for a wedding. And what he finds is a total tale of two cities. When he checks in on his old buddies, their lives couldn't be more different. On one hand, you have Arvind. He inherited this massive estate worth crores from his grandfather, so he's financially totally set. But he's become super arrogant and complacent. He's just coasting, living the high life without working a single day for it. On the flip side, there's Sugandh. Poor Sugandh suffered massive business losses, drained his family's money, and is now totally drowning in debt. He is living in deep shame and poverty. The equal playing field they had as kids stealing mangoes, completely gone. Let's move to Section 2, the empathy lie. So, how exactly does a self-made multimillionaire reconnect with a childhood best friend who's hit absolute rock bottom without making him feel completely awful about himself? Well, a few days after their village reunion, Sugandh actually comes to visit Gopal in the city. And the second Sugandh walks into Gopal's massive, gorgeous mansion, you can tell he is instantly intimidated. He shrinks back. Seeing this, Gopal doesn't flex his success. Instead, he makes up this massive, total lie on the spot. He tells Sugandh that his business is actually failing and that he's secretly drowning in a mountain of debt that perfectly matches his massive assets. He's like, man, if I sold everything tomorrow, I'd have zero left. Why would he say that? Strictly to protect Sugandh's dignity. Gopal literally says he made his own small problems seem huge, just so Sugandh would feel like they were in the exact same boat. By totally downplaying his own success, Gopal creates this incredibly safe, zero-judgment zone. Sugandh suddenly breathes this huge sigh of relief, thinking, oh man, I'm not the only one struggling out here. And in that comfortable, leveled-out environment, Gopal casually offers Sugandh a 10,000 rupee advance. Because Gopal framed himself as just another stressed-out businessman, he could offer this money not as some humiliating charity handout, but just as a temporary, bro-to-bro loan to help Sugandh restart his business. It's an absolute masterclass in emotional intelligence. But wait, Gopal isn't a one-trick pony. Let's hit Section 3, the competitive lie, and see how his strategy completely flips when he has to deal with his other friend. Enter the arrogant millionaire, Arvind. When Arvind comes to visit the city, he looks at Gopal's house, which remember is the exact same house that absolutely terrified Sugandh, and Arvind literally scoffs at it. Riding high on his grandpa's trust fund, he tells Gopal the house doesn't even suit his status. So to stop Arvind from looking down his nose at him, Gopal pulls a total 180. He invents an outrageously exaggerated lavish lifestyle. He casually claims this massive city house is just a lucky charm, and that his real wealth is tied up in a 1,000-acre mango grove, a sprawling luxury mansion out in the country, and a brand new, highly profitable diamond business. He just completely dwarfs Arvind's wealth with pure fiction, and boom, he instantly commands Arvind's respect. Now, this competitive lie wasn't just Gopal stroking his own ego or playing defensive. It was a psychological catalyst. Gopal knew Arvind perfectly. He knew the guy was just resting on his laurels, totally lacking any real ambition. By suddenly positioning himself as way more successful, Gopal struck a match. He ignited this intense competitive spark in complacent Arvind. Almost overnight, Arvind decides he has to start his own businesses and work harder just to catch up to Gopal's completely fabricated standard. Which brings us right to the core of this whole thing. Section 4, the moral of deception. Is what Gopal did actually wrong? Gauri, Gopal's wife, is watching him spin these two completely contradictory stories in their living room, and she asks him point blank, "Isn't that wrong? You're just lying to your childhood friends." Well, let's look at the scorecard to see Gopal's moral calculus in action. With Sugandh, the lie was faked bankruptcy. The intention? Pure empathy. The result was that Sugandh took the 10,000 rupees without feeling ashamed, started a booming business, and actually paid off his debts. Then with Arvind, the lie was faked extreme wealth. The intention? To kill his condescension and light a fire under him. The result? Arvind snapped out of his lazy streak and successfully expanded his own business portfolio. Both lies were surgically tailored to lift his friends up without cheating a single soul. And that is the whole idea behind a strategic lie. It's a falsehood, sure, but one told with 100% pure intentions. It causes literally zero harm, and its entire design is to elevate, protect, or inspire someone else. Gopal explains to Gauri that he didn't swindle anyone. He just used a little creative storytelling to give his oldest friends the exact push they needed to reach their potential. When you look at it that way, the lie transforms. It's not some huge moral failing anymore. It's actually the mark of an incredibly clever, deeply loyal friend. It totally redefines what true support looks like, doesn't it? Sometimes slapping someone with the cold, hard truth is way less helpful than curating the exact psychological environment they need to thrive. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to really chew on. Could you do it? Could you put aside your own strict sense of honesty if it meant fundamentally transforming your friend's life for the better? Would you be wise enough and honestly brave enough to orchestrate a strategy like this for the people you care about? Let that sink in.